we have the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by the Men's Leadership Academy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, stay there, please. Thanks. I have a bio to read. When you walk on the campuses of American Legion, C.K. McClatchy, John F. Kennedy, Hiram Johnson, or Sutter Middle School, you may encounter several young men walking around campus wearing black polo shirts and offering assistance if you need it. These young men are part of a new group known as the Men's Leadership Academy. This program is completing its first full year, and these young men have made tremendous progress in their individual schools. These students have been exposed to post-high school education through tours of some of California's top state and private universities. They've also been introduced to some of the highest-ranking elected officials in Sacramento and California, including Governor Jerry Brown. In March of this year, during spring break, these 40 young men had an unforgettable experience and accomplished something they will remember for the rest of their lives. They were taken by bus to San Diego, California, to spend a few hours with some of the country's finest military officers from the Coronado Naval Base. They endured those hours by successfully completing the running, lifting, and challenging obstacles the Navy SEALs conducted. In recognition of their successful trip and accomplishment of completing the Navy SEAL Fitness Challenge, we recognize these young men of the Men's Leadership Academy of the Sacramento Unified School District as this week's stellar students. I think we have a video, and then we'll let you say a few words.
We have a brief presentation for you via video and narration on our part. So many of you may be wondering, what is Men's Leadership Academy? That is a very good question, and hopefully this will help answer that for you. The Men's Leadership Academy, also known as MLA, is a program offered at a few of our high schools and one middle school. The MLA is in its first full year of operation and is modeled after the Male Academy, which is being implemented in the Long Beach Unified School District. MLA class teaches us what it takes to be, and means to become a man, and offers us lessons in leadership, character, and life skills. Our classes are taught by some of the best and caring adult male mentors and role models we have at our schools. Along with the lessons that they have learned, this class has exposed them to some awesome guest speakers, such as former athletes, council members, Sacramento's former chief of police, and the governor of the state of California, Governor Jerry Brown. Not only that, but we have been treated to college tours all the way down in Berkeley at UC Berkeley, home of the California Bears, and UC Davis, home of the Aggies. The young men even were able to attend the Causeway Classic football game this year between Sac State and UC Davis. Davis won, by the way. We want to tell you a little bit about our trip.
On Tuesday of spring break, 40 young men like myself and I met in the parking lot of Center Center and loaded the bus by schools to embark on long journeys in Southern California. On the way to San Diego, we made a stop at a famous University of Southern California. For most of us, the first time being on that campus. It was an awesome experience, leaving many of the with desires to learn more about how to go to the schools like that.
We toured to the campus and paused for a photo with the famous Trojan, and then took a look at some of the athletic facilities. And we continued walking. We saw the art museums and some of the old equipment used in the movie making many years ago. Then we walked through the library and various other department buildings in the classroom. After the tour, we headed back to the bus, loaded up, and continued making our way down to San Diego. Once we arrived, we had a big, wonderful piece of dinner and headed back to the next big day.
In the morning, we were up bright and early and headed over to Coronado Naval Base for the Navy SEAL Fitness Challenge, which was conducted by some of the Navy SEAL's finest officers and recruits. This is where the trip became real. We got off the bus and immediately they made us begin to run on the beach, going up and down 20 to 30-foot sand dunes to get in an early morning workout that got the blood flowing. After running, we sat down to learn some of the key factors the SEALs would be teaching us about mental toughness in the areas of leadership, goal setting, and teamwork. These areas were quickly put to the test after we learned them. We had to go run some more. Then we had to do some push-ups. Then they even made us do a few pull-ups. Finally, we got to the bar dip. The young men were asked to do things they had never experienced before. They learned the ability to do things as a unit, and they locked arms and walked through the ocean fully clothed. Many of them had never stepped foot in the ocean before. They accomplished this as a team. After coming out of the water, they proceeded to roll around in the sand while being completely soaked until they were covered from head to toe. This was a very uncomfortable feeling. One of the more impressive things of the day for our young men was watching their superintendent take part in this entire process with them. He did every push-up they did. He even did every pull-up and every bar dip. He even walked arm in arm with them into the ocean 4 or 5 times. They were really impressed when they saw him covered in sand just like they were. In the end, he stood shoulder to shoulder with the rest of them.
Finally, we came to the dreaded 3,000-pound log, or 300-pound log. As a team, we tried to pick up the log and head for the steady. Other times, we had to walk with the log, maintaining a steady pace. However, a picture is worth 1,000 words, as you can see. After dealing with the log as a group, we were put through the several hard obstacles. Each one taught us how to take the directions from others and how as individually have a part to play in order for the team to be successful. We discovered the consequences of not following directions and also the benefits of when we do. We learned how to push ourselves even when it got difficult. We wanted to give up. We learned how to look out for our team, not always worry about ourselves. By doing this, we spend our energy thinking of others so we don't have time to think about how hard it is for us. But all in all, we faced many difficult and unusual tasks that day, and we were expected to accomplish them all, and we did it. We went as 40 individuals ready to compete in this Navy SEAL challenge, but we left as a team of young men united and ready to face the challenges that lie ahead.
We have a quick certificate of achievement that we want to present to Jonathan P. Raymond in recognition of your success and accomplishment in completing the Navy SEALs Fitness Challenge, and as our leader and superintendent, the Beast of Sacramento City Unified School District, April 18, 2013. And Anthony is going to present you with the Men's Leadership Academy polo shirt.
You know, I guess I've never been on this side.
2 minutes.
It feels a whole lot better to be dressed the way I am today. And just for the record, I think I washed the last bit of sand out of my hair and ears about a week ago. But I've never been more proud of our young men. And to be honest with you, I was very nervous, which is one reason why I went on the trip. Thinking about 40 of our young and finest heading down to San Diego for 2 nights in a hotel was a little much for me to bear, thinking about being warm and cozy up here in Sacramento. So I headed down, and I have to say the young men were just outstanding. And I want to thank our adults who went along as role models and mentors. It's really key, you know, and I'm sure they'll tell you, but for many of our young men, you know, the best part of their day is coming to school. And they don't have a lot of caring adults in their lives that care in them, believe in them, and yes, are always there for them and truly love them. And we're so fortunate to have a dedicated group of adults working with these young men. And it's true, they left here early in the morning on that Tuesday morning as a group of guys from McClatchy and from Kennedy and from Rosemont and Hiram Johnson and American Legion, and they came back as 40 young men from Sacramento. And that was apparent right when they got out of the water after the last log. And one of the things you didn't see was the SEAL shower that they got to take, which was a bunch of concrete cinder blocks with about 20 shower heads throwing out ice-cold water. That's how everyone got cleaned off that day. But it was a tremendous experience, and I'm really, really proud of them. And you know, one of our young men will tell you, but he just graduated from high school and he's heading off to college. So I'd like him to share a little bit of that experience. And again, just so thankful that we're able to offer this program for our young men. We can change school communities. We can change neighborhoods by making sure that our young men have a really bright future. So I want to just thank and congratulate them again.
I don't know what to say. I mean, I really don't know what to say. Is that when I joined the class, that I really was kind of like a knucklehead. But then at time to time, my habit changed. My character grew up more, and I figured out that I need to get done with school. And it was like my last year. Then I become a super senior and all that. So after the trip of Navy SEAL, I decided I'm gonna get my work done. By that, within 2 weeks, I found out I graduated on Monday, and then I'm a graduate now when I'm going off to college.
Thank you very much. This meeting of the Sacramento City School Board is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs Channel, and the Comcast and SureWest cable systems. Today's meeting will be replayed Sunday, April 21st at 9 a.m. and Monday, April 22nd at noon on Channel 14, and will be webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. A video copy is also available for checkout from any library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker identification form located in the back of the community room and give it to our Chief Communications Officer, Mr. Gabe Ross, to my right. prior to the conclusion of the item's presentation. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Please limit comments during public comment to items not listed on the agenda. If you are found to be commenting on an item that is on the agenda, you'll be asked to defer until your item comes up on the agenda. Please remember to turn off all cell phones or place them on silent or vibrate. Item 5.0, announcement of action taken in closed session. Superintendent?
Thank you, President Cuneo. We have several appointment of principals this evening, and I believe they're all here in attendance. And so I'd like to ask that individually that they stand up, and we'll start with Lorena Carrillo. Okay. I'm pleased to announce that the board, by a unanimous vote of those present, approved the appointment of Lorena Carrillo as principal, Bret Harte Elementary School. I'd like to ask Principal Yi Ya to stand, please. I'm pleased to announce that the board, by a unanimous vote of those present, have approved the appointment of Yi Ya as principal, Carolyn Winslow Elementary School. Daniel McCord, please stand. I'm pleased to announce that the board, by a unanimous vote of those present, has approved the appointment of Daniel McCord as principal, Crocker Riverside Elementary School. I'd like to ask Tenley Lechner-Luke to please stand. I'm pleased to announce that the board, by a 5-0 vote, with board member Rodriguez abstaining, has approved the appointment of Tenley Lechner-Luke as principal, Hollywood Park Elementary School. There's still more? I'd like to ask Lee Ya to please stand. I'm pleased to announce that the board, by a unanimous vote of those present, has approved the appointment of Lee Ya as principal, Susan B. Anthony Elementary School. Jackie Bonini, please stand. I'm pleased to announce that the board, by a unanimous vote of those present, has approved the appointment of Jackie Bonini as principal, Woodbine Elementary School. Al Rogers, please stand. I'm pleased to announce that the board, by a unanimous vote of those present, has approved the appointment of Al Rogers as principal, Sam Brannan Middle School. Matt Turkey, please stand. I'm pleased to announce that the board, by a unanimous vote of those present, has approved the appointment of Matt Turkey as principal, School of Engineering and Sciences. That concludes our appointments this evening, President Cuneo.
Thank you, Superintendent. Item 6.0, agenda adoption. I will move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
We have a second by Vice President Kennedy. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? We have an agenda. Item 7.0, public comment. Mr. Ross?
We have 6 comments on 7.0. Our first 4 comments are from Leo Bennett Cochon, Jessica Arriaga, Maria Rodriguez, and Terrence Gladney.
Leo Bennett Cochon, parent, teacher, advocate for neighborhood schools. Just a brief comment. As a special educator, we're taught to be sensitive to culture. Perhaps having everybody leave before public comment is not the most sensitive thing. I realize they're here for us. I mean, they're principals, but we were always trained in IEP meetings, think about parents first. The clock hold for a second.
Going.
When people say underutilized, what does that really mean? The board should consider the needs of our community, not just a few enrollment numbers. That's a quote from your interim chief of staff. The board's been considering school closures from a fiscal perspective. I urge you to consider your triple bottom line. I think you're not succeeding fiscally because this is going to cost you money. You're losing resources at schools. And you're not going to succeed environmentally. You're increasing your carbon footprint as you bus and make parents take trips. And you're certainly not achieving through social equity. When you don't meet your triple byline, I think it's important to go back to your vision. We have a vision from the strategic plan. Schools are community centers. We also have a vision as to our process. Putting solutions on the table and asking your community to get there is the wrong way to go. Did the Rosemont patch quote you correctly, President? Hearing no answer, I will assume they did quote you correctly. I'm urging the board to consider a draft resolution. It gives us one more year. It's modeled on the resolution that kept Tahoe and Mark Hopkins open. The board has a policy. When an agenda item is requested, the member that gets the request, the community, is to get an answer, and that answer is to be reported to board members. This is probably my third agenda request. I have not heard back. Will I hear back this time, Mr. President? I will conclude that the last policy, 9323, says that board members may briefly respond to questions from the public. Will you ever respond to a question from the public, Mr. President? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, board members. My name is Jessica Arriaga. I am a parent of 2 children at Joseph Bonheim, and I just wanted to bring to your attention some things that are concerning me. Just yesterday, a parent at Peter Burnett pulled me aside because they know that I attend these meetings. Go figure, right? They told me that their daughter hasn't gotten homework for about a month because of the explanation that they were given was because the school cannot afford the paper that the homework is printed on. That was the explanation given to the parent. Whether that is true or fictitious or not, it concerns me because that is what's being conveyed to the parents, and this is what's being relayed to parents of children that you're expecting to attend this school as a receiving school. You're adding 300 more students to this school. So that poor communication and that word that's getting out to those parents and that is coming out to me discerns me. And it discerns me because just the last board meeting, you approved Rosa Parks to go to K through 8. When asked by several board members how much that remodel is going to cost, the answer was, we don't have a ballpark figure at this time. In my perspective, you wrote that school a one-time blank check, but you have a school that can't give out homework because of budget or financial concerns. That is going to cause problems for me as a parent, and it's not, I may just be one parent, but I'm having other parents bringing this to my attention. So although I'm just one person, I am speaking for others. Whether you see them here or not, they are approaching me. And I want you guys to really understand that it's not just me advocating for my school. It's other kids. My kids don't even attend Peter Burnett, and they're telling me, what can we do? I called the principal. I asked the principal to look into it. This is what I'm being asked to do of other people in the community. So I just wanted to make you aware of what is being transpired and what is going on in the communities, because these are all affecting decisions that you have made. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Before I start, I just wanted to note that, Mr. Hansen, you always want to focus on the positive, and I wish I had more than 2 minutes to speak, and I would focus on the positive, because every time I come here, there's something that I'm very proud of in this school district, and I want the school district to be around and vital when I have grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and hopefully they're living in Sacramento, and they'll be students in this school. But I don't have time for the positive. President Cunha, Superintendent Raymond, members of the school board, my name is Maria Rodriguez. This evening I would like to comment on a report that was made to you at the last meeting, the Chronic Absence Study Project report. And I'd like to thank Superintendent Raymond and his staff for putting together a very thorough and useful report. Unfortunately, I left that meeting with a strong sense of irony, and it's a sense that I think Board Member Rodriguez recognized when she said, "I wish we had had this report before the board had to make the vote on closing the schools." I hope that the irony of that situation is not lost on the rest of you. The report had a lot of good information in it, which I would like to highlight for people who didn't hear the report. But again, I don't have enough time, so I'm just going to focus on what are the next steps. The staff said that the next steps would be for 7 pilot schools to have a data processing program in place so that they could identify students who were chronically absent. The schools were Science and Engineering School, West Campus, 3 middle schools, and Elder Creek. I would like to suggest to you that the schools that are impacted by the school closures be part of this pilot program and that we track absences. Specifically, I would like you to look at William Land and Theodore Judah, the schools that are impacted by Washington Elementary School. Washington is a school that has the biggest impact as far as how far their students have to travel. I mentioned last time that I walked the walk. It took me 35 minutes to walk from Washington to William Land, and I highlighted last time some of the concerns I had about that walk. When the study that you listened to said that some of the causes of absenteeism are lack of safe passages to school and poor transportation, I think that some of these students are going to be impacted. And I ask the board in a year from now to ask the superintendent to present data that shows how absenteeism has been impacted by this closure. It will be a good measure of how well we have handled this transition. I hope it doesn't actually show any problems, but that's what I'm asking, and I hope you will consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Terrence Gladney, and 2 weeks ago, I asked the board a number of questions surrounding the Bond Oversight Committee selection process. When I called the board office, I asked, what's the average or what's the usual time that responses are given or posted on the website, and I was told by the next board meeting. Yet here it is at the next board meeting, I don't have answers. So I don't think that the questions I asked were pretty difficult, so maybe I can ask now, who was on the selection process? Who was on the selection team that selected the Bond Oversight Committee? Maybe you guys could raise your hands if you served on that. Okay, so President Cuneo and Mr. Kennedy. So one of the concerns I raised was that Mr. Kennedy was listed as a personal reference for one of the applicants. I think that applicant should either be pulled or have a different personal reference, just for consideration of conflict of interest. I also noted that there were multiple applications of applicants who served on the previous Bond Oversight Committee, which by the resolution you guys passed was terminated. Therefore, they should have had to reapply. I haven't gotten a response as to whether that's actually going to happen. One thing I didn't note last time was that there are 2 members of parents. There's 2 parents from Sutterville and 2 parents from LDV. That's not a diverse committee. It's not reflective of the district. And they were amongst those who had stale applications from 2011, 2012, again, before Measures Q and R were even put to voters. So this time I think I'll be a little bit more direct. I'm asking you guys to reconvene the process for selection, and provide everyone, board members, public, with a list of all the applicants, so maybe we can also have visibility into what it was that maybe, pointed you guys to select these particular members, and also those that you didn't select. And I think that a fair timeline is before the next board meeting so that I don't have to go back to CDE and do something like, request a restraining order on bond funds, because that is one of my rights as a citizen. Thank you.
Terrence? Yes. You can go onto our website. You can click on my picture and send me an email. I'd be happy to have a cup of coffee with you and talk about it.
I'm asking for it to be put in public record through public comment like the last time.
We can do that too. That's
Okay.
not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Our next three comments, our final three comments on 7.0 are from Alex Visaya, Victoria Camargo, and Grace Trujillo.
Distinguished board members, cabinet and staff, President Cunio, absent Mr. Raymond, Superintendent. My name is Alex Visaya, a student family advocate. Good evening. The announcement and final closure of 7 out of 12 elementary schools was a total chaos and bedlam, and that's rightly so. However, right is much far better definition to right-sizing the declining enrollment of this district. Just a thought. Okay, moving forward, transition teams are hard at work to meet the needs of all stakeholders. Foremost in their mind, what's the best for these students? I have visited 2 sites and will continue to do so until we get it right. From the central office support staff to the site administrator with their support staff, they are visibly present and planning a well-defined, seamless transition between schools. So I want to remain positive throughout this evolving process. Kudos to all for a job well done. Mahalo.
Thank you.
There's a copy for Raymond in there, too. The white one is the one I'm going to read to you, and then the yellow one is information.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
My name is Victoria Camargo. I'm from CB Wire. Okay, dear board members, you've said that you wanted to know more about the transition that's going on. Well, it's really not going anywhere for us at CB Wire. We as parents talk to other parents from other schools like a network. In this network, we're learning about schools that have several transition meetings while we have had only one. We have been told in order to get more transition meetings, we have to ask for them. I was under the understanding this process was to be provided to us and to be as stressless as possible. That's not the case if we have to ask for them. The only way we found out about our upcoming transition meeting in May was our accidentally coming across it at the Sac City Unified School District website. The school board has promised better communication and more transparency. I've asked at the DAC meetings for walking field trips to our receiving schools and have not yet gotten one. And we have 3 schools we are being split up into. We are running out of time for our parents to be reached and children to be taught how to get to their new schools. I still have parents asking me how to find out where their child is going to next year. Lately, I feel that my husband, myself, teachers at our school are doing more for the parents and their children in this transition than the team that you hired. My main question is, why are we spending so much time and money on this team if we're doing all the work? And the yellow paper is at our school, you wanted to know about activities that we're having. We're having a clothes drive so that we can help with, it's kind of like a transition. It's a moving on for the kids and to pay for their yearbooks this year so that we don't have to ask the parents to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Cuneo. President Cuneo.
Yes.
Can I please ask that the superintendent please come to the board? I believe the last speaker's comments should be heard by the superintendent as well.
Go ahead, Grace.
Hello, my name is Grace Trujillo. Good evening, members of the board. The reason I'm here today is the fact that I think one thing that we need to do more at the Sacramento School District have Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. I know for my son right now, there is an idea to save money, and the way we're going to do it is by having all the children with special needs go to their home school. Well, that's what has been causing that in my son's situation now. He had a really good classroom where he was reading, talking, communicating, and all of a sudden now, this year, it happens where he's not talking. He's making sign languages. Because guess what? They're putting kids from all different areas in the neighborhood in this one classroom. Guess what? Behaviors start arising. All the work that I have done in the past years have just gone away. I resigned my job, and I'm a very proactive, involved, educate myself so I could help my son. But right now, I can't do anything. Because guess what? You're putting all these children with different disabilities in that one classroom, and kids are having a difficult time. And that's the same thing that's going to happen in this transition. That's my concern. It's cost so much money to send children with special needs. A transition for them, it's not that easy. And there has to be IEPs put in place, supports put in place, different transition methods to go into it. And if some of those things don't happen, the child has a lot of behavior problems. And then the school's not able to deal with it. And then they have to send them to non-public schools, not charter schools, non-public schools that are very expensive. And again, like I said, this is a plan that happened 2 years ago to do this, to send the child in their neighborhood school. And this is what has happened. I don't want to be coming back 2 years from now with those same children having the same situations that we're doing these closures that could have been resolved by simply sharing a principal from these different schools. I've taken my time to audit those records of the budget and everything, and I just can't see it. I can't see the savings. It's been more of a deficit now. I think we're going into the negative instead of the positive. And guess what? It's going to affect next year, because next year we're going to have a higher amount. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
We have one final comment on 7.0 from Cindy Salazar.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Salazar. I'm here again to talk to you about this decision to close Washington. First, I have a question. How can you say that you have authentically engaged our community or our parents prior to this vote, when we have signed petitions and submitted those petitions to the district and to the board, and no one has come out to our neighborhood and talked to the taxpayers and homeowners in our neighborhood to find out what they think about the closure? I walk around my neighborhood. I talk to these people. They are against this closure, but their voices haven't been heard. Our parents are on campus in the morning when they drop off their kids and in the afternoon when they pick up their kids. And yet, that's the time to talk to our parents, not your one meeting, coming to our school and half listening to what we're saying. And here's another thing. I've had no response from anybody when I've commented on anything in terms of, I spoke with Mr. Manansala, and then I followed up with an email, and I've had no comment, no response from him on that. I do have signatures to a parent petition requesting a change at our school. However, when I found out that it would require firing our principal and our union teachers and our union staff, being a third-generation union activist, that went completely against my values and my belief system, and that's why I didn't submit them to the board as of yet. But I do have those signatures. If anybody wants to see them or would like to have them, I would be happy to present them. But I will not present them if it means firing our teachers and our staff. I will not do that. The other thing that I really find highly, highly objectionable is that Ms. Booker was up here in December talking about bullying at our school, and I reported that to everyone on this board, and no one has responded or even come to our school to talk to our parents about the bullying situation from our previous principal. We finally have a good principal. He's working with our families. He respects our families in a way that we haven't had for 4 years at our school, and nobody's coming to us to talk to us about any of these things. So I would ask you to please consider the impact of this. You're asking us you're splitting up generations of families who live in our neighborhood, who rely on their own grandparents and parents that live in the neighborhood, who care for their children after school. And you're making these decisions based on what? When you have not engaged our community, you cannot say that this is a good decision for our community. Now, I would ask you, please, somebody, contact me. Every email that I've sent to anybody, I've said, feel free to contact me. Feel free to contact me. I haven't heard from anybody. So, how about a little two-way conversation here? How about a little meaningful two-way conversation? I mean, that's all we're asking. We're asking to be heard. I think it's your responsibility to come to us, not our responsibility to come to you. And it's the district's responsibility to engage our community, not ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8.0, consent. We have one more.
Sorry, President Cunha, we have one more comment on 7.0 from Rosa Torres.
You need a...
Hello, good evening. I'm going to try my best. I don't know too much English, but I'm at the Parents of Washington School, and I've been here because I'm so affected about this close. I'm a single parent, and I don't have transportation for healthy reasons. So, and this is causing me like a big frustrated because I don't know how to take my daughter from my house to the new school. So now I just walk her, but in case if she doesn't have transportation, so how I'm going to do it? So, and this is one of the concerns I have talked to about and other parents about this, or they come to me and they have the same issue. And they said, well, it's because you never go to the meetings. I work at nighttime. I work from 6 to 2:30 in the morning, and it's really hard. It's really hard to wake up in the morning to take my daughter to school. So in case she missed the bus, so it's more than 20 blocks to have her walk. So in case if she misses it, I have to take a public transportation, which I have to buy a ticket for her and ticket for me. And if I buy a monthly pass, it's $150 that I don't have. And I'm a single parent, and I have, really struggles on this.
¿Qué quiere que le interprete? ¿Le queda decir más? Okay,
no, está bien. Sí.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is it okay if I add something else too?
Okay, go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
This past 2 days, I've been kind of talking to parents, and I think yesterday was a heartbreaking experience when I talked to a parent. They told me, Grace, like she was saying, I have 2 jobs. I can't come here. That's why I'm here talking. That's why everybody sees me talking, because I see there's a need. There's a passion. There's parents that want a voice but don't have it. And that's why I'm here. You know what she told me? Grace, you know what happened to my daughter? My daughter was assaulted. And guess what? When she was walking down the street, there's bums. There's people that are on drugs. They're drunk. And here we have to take our kids walking. And now it's going to be further. And these are just part of the comments people are saying.
Ma'am, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
¿Quiere comentar otra cosa? Lo que usted pueda decir, como por ejemplo, cómo le ha afectado.
Well, muchísimo me ha afectado.
She said that it has affected her in several different ways.
Incluso mi hija ya no quiere levantarse ir a la escuela.
Her daughter no longer wants to get up to go to school.
Dice que para qué si ya la van a cerrar.
She said, why should I? Because they're going to close the school anyway. She said she doesn't know what to say because she's very emotional right now and it's very heartening.
Si me puede decir el nombre y a qué escuela tiene. I just want to know her name and the school that you're.
Her name and the school.
Celeste Valderas.
Ah,
I'm sorry.
Celeste Valderas.
¿Y a qué escuela va su hija?
Washington.
Gracias.
So she's been coming late because she doesn't want. I have a very hard time to wake her up. And dice, ¿para qué la llevo? ¿Para qué voy si ya la van a cerrar?
Yeah. She doesn't want to get up in the morning because she's afraid. She says, why are they going to close the school? There's no need for me to get up.
So, and actually, she said that when it was the open enrollment, she said, okay, if I can't go to this Washington anymore, so I would like to go to Tito Yuter. But she was assigned to William Lamb. So, and I said, well, if I want to take her to Tito Yuter, they say they cannot provide transportation over there. So I don't even get the option to choose her school. That's another thing. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell.
Okay. Hold on one moment. Member Hanson.
Yes. Rosa?
Okay. Yes.
So I said, thank you very much for coming and speaking in here today and telling us about this. The school district has committed to providing transportation to the school, so I'd be happy to help make sure that you understand, where the pickup places are when we assign those routes. I understand we have not done that yet, so we still have work to do to complete the transition, but I want to make a commitment that I'll make sure that you know where the pickup place is, for your daughter to make sure that she can get to William Land. I've been to that school. It's a great, great school. Please tell her to keep going to school. She needs to go to school, and you have to help encourage her to do that. And we'll make sure that there's a way for you to be able to take her there. And so I'd like to help you with that.
Well, that's what I've been telling her. I said, everything is going to be okay, but then she said, oh, well, my whole friends, they're going to Tito Yuter, so how come I cannot go to Tito Yuter? And I said, because this is the school, then you got to sign it. So you have to go to this school. So, but some of my friends, they're not going to be there. I said, well, you have to go where you have to go. And the principal thing is you have to study, because that's the only thing I can offer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe if you could leave your name and contact information, and we could have staff follow up with you about this issue.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Maybe over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Cunha, my light is on still for this commenter.
Slow down, everyone. I'm not done. I'm just trying to make sure that we get her pointed in the right direction. Member Rodriguez.
I actually wanted to ask her a follow-up question. In addition to that, before I ask this next thing, where is the superintendent?
He said that he had to step out for a moment. He didn't say why. So I don't know.
Can we break for recess until he comes back? Because
of
the public
comment staff here.
All of the public commenters here are worthy and deserve for the superintendent to hear what is going on.
I'm not going to break.
Señora Rosa, quería decir algo. Primero quiero extender mis mil gracias de todo mi corazón para venir ahora, para expresar sus concerns aquí. So, gracias para venir. Sé que fue una cosa muy difícil para venir y quiero decir mil gracias a usted.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to attend those meetings because how I've been telling you, I work at nighttime and it's hard for me to tell my boss, can you give me permission to assist at all these meetings? So and this is some of the other parents. I hear this from other parents. So they work at nighttime like me, and we get really frustrated because we cannot speak. And there is another thing: my English is not that good, and some of the parents say, "Well, I don't know how to speak English," and I said, "Well, they have translators over there." So but it's hard for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but thank you for listening.
In addition to that, in inglés y español, okay?
Okay.
So you have two board members. You can pass on the word to your parents that there are two of us who speak Spanish on this board, so they can communicate with us. So en español, para que todos si están mirando este programa, que hay dos de nosotros aquí que sienten esta mesa directiva de educación que hablan español y que si tienen algo que decir que de nuestra para las escuelas que pueden hablar a nosotros. ¿Okay?
Sí, está bien. Muchos de los papás querían venir esta noche, pero como igual que yo no tenemos el medio de transporte para venir acá. Muchos de los papás tienen hijos y no tienen dónde dejarlos. Y bueno, son muchas las cosas que con nosotros como papás, la mayoría de los papás que asistimos a la Washington somos latinos. Entonces es una de las razones también por las cuales no podemos, porque trabajamos de noche.
Gracias.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have Member Pritchett.
I'm not done yet, Mr. Cuneo, President Cuneo. I would like to request that we have a board meeting at Washington Elementary School, since our public speaker, Ms. Rosa, has expressed that many parents want to come to our board meeting. However, due to transportation and childcare, they are unable to come to our board meetings to express their concerns through this transition process. So I'd like to request that our next board meeting be situated at Washington Elementary so that we can open up our board and superintendent to hear their comments. I'd like to also have a translator on board so that perhaps we are the ones wearing the translation headsets, and they then are allowed to speak in their natural tongue and have a meeting conducted in their language. And if need be, you can have either myself or Member Arroyo preside over that meeting alongside with you. So that way we can have a thoroughly engaged meeting with the public. Thank you.
Member Pritchett.
Thank you, President Cuneo. This is the prime example of why we asked for a plan prior to school closures. I hear the heartbreak in that lady's voice. It just kills me inside to hear this. And I've been a single mother. I know how hard it is. And I just can't imagine what's going through her mind and able to about keeping her child safe. I do have a question regarding the transportation. And I know we said that we were going to offer transportation, but it has not been clear to me. If they choose another school through priority registration, do we still have transportation to one of the priority schools, or do they have to supply their own transportation at that point?
President Cuneo, is it okay if I answer that question?
Sure, thank you.
If a parent goes through open enrollment, they have to provide their own transportation.
Okay, thank you.
Member Hansen? Did you still want to speak? Okay.
Thanks. I wanted to also just make a note to Maria Rodriguez. Thank you very much. I do like to talk about the positive, and you coming up and giving an excellent suggestion was my first positive for this meeting. So thank you. I think that's an excellent suggestion on tracking the chronic absences for students from Judah that will be attending Judah and William Land, and I'd like to do that, and I'd be happy to work with you on that project. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you. No further public comment? Okay. Item 8.0, consent agenda. My understanding is we have 2 public comments. Or 2 people, I should say.
We actually have 3 members of the public commenting on consent items. We have 2 comments on 8.1A. We have a comment on 8.1B, and then a comment on 8.1G and I as well, from 3 different people.
It'd probably be easier if we just did it by person. Is that fair enough? Okay.
Sure. We'll start with Leo Bennett Cochon, who is commenting on 8.1A, 8.1G, and 8.1I, followed by Terrence Gladney on 8.1A and Jessica Arriaga on 8.1B.
My comment on 8.1A is page 2, where they break out how much of bond money, and it's my understanding that bond money carries an interest rate, and so I'm assuming this isn't the actual payment, so I'm just trying to get clear. That's what we pay them, but what does it cost us by the time the bond is retired, if I'm understanding it right? And it's in reference, when you approved the budget, there's a certificate of participation payment of $1.2 million. That was an expenditure increase. So again, I'm just trying to educate both myself and the public what goes on with bond money, interest rate, and then the general fund, where we're seeing this $1.2 million expenditure increase. The second comment is, if you would, I would appreciate some discussion, not just a consent item, on the resolution supporting adult education in the K-12 system. I have feet in the community college system, so I'm not really sure both ways. I value adult education. I think it needs to find the home where it's most valued. Since you did sweep their funds and you have laid off adult teachers, perhaps having a discussion, showing your commitment going forward, could help us in the community make up our minds whether K-12, the historical home, is still the best home, or if the community college is now a better fit as things evolve. And then lastly, in the minutes, I had a question for Member Hansen. There's comments in here about the motion and the 5-year moratorium. I thought it was an excellent motion. I haven't heard anything since then, and I was hoping perhaps you'd be able to give us an update. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jessica Arriaga, and good evening again. I wanted to touch bases on the financial aspects because there's been a lot of comments made about lack of transparency within the board, and I want to let you all know that you have been very transparent to me as a parent, very transparent. As what I see as the public watching these board meetings, it's been very clear to me that we have Cunio, Kennedy, and Wu, who, when they need to tip the scales, they reel in Hansen. That has been very transparent to me. If you take offense to that, I hope you do, because I want you to prove me wrong. I want to be wrong, because as long as I'm right, the children are not being served, and nor is the public. And as long as I am right, and I may be one voice, I can turn it to 10, that can turn it to 100, that can turn it to 1,000. And it only takes one vote or one person to be removed from the board. And my voice has no resonance. And I can take my feet to any district and either be your ally or be someone who will be supporting anyone that will go against any one of you. Because my advocacy is for the children. So I implore you and I challenge you to prove me wrong and make that transparency that's been transparent to me appear differently. because this is not going to be sufficient for me. And as I understand, many of you may be up for re-election. And I would love to be there to support you and be able to stand behind you and say you've done everything to support the public and not the whispers of those people that are whispering in your ear that have their own interests at heart. So I am challenging you to prove me wrong and make sure that our children are being served. And that is why I attend. And I really, really, Cunha, you've said, I look forward to the days that we can talk about delivering quality education, have heartfelt communication. I too look forward to that day. But I also look forward to that day where that communication goes between parent, community, and board members, and our voices are heard instead of voted against. Thank you for your time.
Good evening again. My name is still Terrence Gladney. I'm not a parent of San Brandon, but I help out over there, and I'm still PTA president, but I was actually helping today with their track team. Track and field is one of the most amazing sports because, where else, in the district amongst our interscholastic athletics can you see hundreds of kids, in a social environment, really just supporting people, not even from their own school, just supporting each other to do their best, not competing necessarily against one another, but competing against their last race or their last throw or the last jump. Today I saw kids who were classmates or schoolmates at elementary school, rekindle friendships in the middle of the field at Burbank because, as middle school athletes now, they're, using that facility to, just do, compete in a sport where there's not necessarily tryouts. My son competes in athletics at Kennedy. He's on the track team, and I see the same thing. He sees kids that he was in school with at middle school or in elementary school, and it's just such a social environment, and it really speaks to, district-wide reinforcement of health, wellness, and also just, positive character traits. I know that the track team over at Kennedy, the coaches, Coach Gallen, Coach Sean, Coach James, Coach Derek, they've been advocating for years for a replacement of that facility. A few years ago, they presented a ton of data on lower leg injuries suffered by their athletes, and this is long overdue. So thank you guys for pushing this forward. It really should be and hopefully will be a community hub, not only just for the high schools but also for the middle schools to have a proper, safe place to practice, but also a revenue stream for the district, for community activities, whether it's football teams or additional events that can be used on the field. And I hope that you guys recognize this, not a one-time investment. Just like Rosemont's track is being resurfaced and their field is being, relayed, I hope that we dedicate the necessary resources to make sure that we maintain our facilities for all the youth to use. Thank you.
Thank you. That is our public comment in regard to the consent agenda. Seeing no board member wanting to speak, I will move to approve the consent agenda. I have a second by Vice President Wu. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The consent agenda has been approved. 9.0, Board Workshop, Strategic Plan, and Other Initiatives. 9.1, Bond Oversight Committee, 2011-2012, Annual Report, Measure I. Carol Davidova, Dave O'Toole, Nick Collar. It's a conference and action item. I hope I pronounced your names correctly.
Good evening, members and Chair. I'm Dave O'Toole. I'm representing the Bond Oversight Committee, and I'm presenting our committee's annual report on Measure I for the 2011-12 fiscal year. And I chaired the subcommittee that prepared the report that you have in your packet. A little bit of background on the committee first. Under Article 13A, Section 1, Sub B, Sub 3 of the Constitution, also known as Prop 39, the district is required to conduct an annual independent audit, financial audit of the proceeds of the sales of bonds until all those proceeds have been expended for the school facilities projects. The Bond Oversight Committee oversees the district's expenditures of bond proceeds by reviewing the expenditure reports produced by the district to ensure the proceeds are expended only for the specified purposes in the ballot. It's specified in the ballot measure, and no bond proceeds are used for any teacher or administrative salaries or other operating expenses. Since its inception, the committee has overseen and verified the expenditure of over $210 million in Measure I bond funds and $157 million worth of state matching funds. The BOC has 11 members, a few who are here today. Alex Visaya is right there, and Adolfo Mercado, our vice chair, is right there. With the passage of Q&R recently, this will be the final report of this committee. Returning to Measure I, that measure was passed in 2002, as you know, and the purpose of the measure, according to the ballot statement, was to alleviate overcrowding, renovate, repair, replace, acquire, and construct school buildings, meet fire, health, and safety standards, and provide wiring for computers and provide needed mechanical improvements. So that was our charge to verify. Turning to the audit now, on February 5th of this year, committee members received copies of the 2011-12 annual audit, independent financial and performance audits, those two documents, and at the meeting reviewed the Measure I financial statements and performance audit. Crowe Horwath, the accounting firm who completed both statements in the audit, presented their findings on the performance audit first and determined that the district had expended the bond funds in accordance with Prop 39. A total of $22,668,086 in expenditures was identified. The financial statements, Crowe Horwath had no findings of concern. The committee inquired about the fund balance and transfers, and these questions were answered to the satisfaction of the committee. A couple of recommendations before I conclude. To improve the oversight of Measures Q and R bond expenditures and provide a back-end review of the bond steering committee plans for expenditures, it is recommended that at least one member of the BOC be appointed to the bond steering committee. I think that has actually already occurred. It's also recommended that the bond steering committee be timed to immediately follow or precede the bond oversight committee meeting, so facilitate sort of productive discussion between the both and public being able to more easily attend both meetings. And finally, it's recommended that the district continue to encourage and direct schools to include information about applications for the BOC in their newsletters. Thank you for your attention. I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. We have Board Member Rodriguez.
Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. But I apologize, Board Member Rodriguez. We need to do public comment first.
I'm perfectly happy with that. How many do we have?
Just one comment on 9.1 from Leo Bennett Cochon.
Again, it would be helpful if the board packet was labeled, but I'm looking at the annual report, what I would call the second page, and it lists the folks that are on the bond committee and referencing some of the comments that have been made about the current bond committee. I think it would be helpful if you would list the district school in the interest of transparency, that people could see that the district schools are a representative cross-section. Thank you.
Board Member Rodriguez.
Thank you. In your report, you just had mentioned as well that there were a couple of reports, audit reports, the performance and financial audit reports. I can't find them on the web, in our district's website. I would like to have a copy of that report distributed out to the entire board. I want the full copy. Mm-hmm. And because this is public dollars, I would like to see that on our board, on our website as well. And then the
looks like someone. I don't know your name. I'm sorry, sir, but it looks like he can respond.
I'll answer that. It actually is on the website. It's in the members only section, but we can go ahead and we'll take it out of there and put it onto the public.
Members only?
There's basically a portion of the website where the members of the Bond Oversight Committee can go, kind of like an open forum. They can ask questions. They can receive documents, things like that.
These are public monies, and so anything that deals with public money should be open to the public. So I would appreciate that we put that information. Any and all communication should be put out to the public for them to read and understand what exactly is transpiring on this bond oversight committee. So I'd appreciate it very much if we all had access to that. Thank you. The other question that I have is, and I'm not sure which one of you can answer that, the steering committee, I didn't get that information, like the definition of a steering committee. What is their purpose? What are they doing?
The steering committee?
Yeah.
I can provide that answer. Thank you. That member Rodriguez is it's an advisory group of individual stakeholders who are helping to look at and provide feedback to the architects as they're working on presenting plans that come back to the board on how which projects will be utilized. That's a committee that I've put together.
Does the board have anything to do with advice?
No. So as part of my responsibilities when I bring back recommendations to the board for review, this is in the plans and the projects. I utilize staff and I utilize stakeholder and advisory committees in forming those recommendations, and this is one bit of part of that process.
And how do you ensure the diversity of your steering committee?
I look for the best representation that we can find in finding the project. So we've invited all of our representative committees to have a part of that. All of our collective bargaining partners are part of that, and we look for other stakeholders who have certain expertise in the community that can provide the best advice.
Is it by project or is it as a district as a whole? I mean, how are you defining this what their charge is on this?
Well, again, we've passed two bonds that are pretty specific in the kinds of projects that the school district has been authorized to look at undertaking. So within the guidelines of our bond measures, recall there's very specific language in those bond measures which define the scope of the projects. So within that, that's why we've hired the architectural firm to come back with our implementation plan, and this plan is being reviewed and vetted by an advisory group before it comes back to the board.
I'm not going to request a response to this, and please don't respond to it, but I thought that the board, when we wanted to go out and we decided to vote to go out for measures Q&R, we voted on that specific use of those monies to those specific projects in Q&R. And so I'm a little lacking some understanding on what you have a specific steering committee for versus a bond oversight committee versus what we just approved as a board. And I don't want a response to that. It's more of a sidebar conversation that myself and maybe the superintendent will take up at another time. But just wanted to put that out there that I'm going to seek further understanding on that. Thank you.
Member Pritchett.
Thank you, President Cunha. I just have a couple questions that possibly you can answer. There was some things in your presentation that kind of raised a red flag in a sense. When you were talking about Measure I and giving us the history of Measure I, can you tell me, you had mentioned that you had used the words that that the money was used to alleviate overcrowding. Can you tell me what the money actually was used for in that sense?
That was the language in the bond measure that the voters voted on. So what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Dave probably couldn't.
How was it used to alleviate overcrowding? Let me ask you that.
Dave probably couldn't specifically answer that question. The overcrowding we had at the Met. Let's say we've used bond measure I funds in order to relieve that overcrowding.
Was that the only school that it was used for?
There were many other schools. Off the top of my head, I couldn't answer that question for you, but I could get you a list of the projects that we used overcrowding funds for.
Would you say that some of the bond money was used to purchase portables to alleviate overcrowding?
Yes, some of the bond money was used to purchase portables.
So, Superintendent, maybe you can answer this for me. Would you say that because we used the bond money to purchase portables, that caused the schools to become, what's the word I'm looking for? underutilized because we purchased portables with bond money with Measure I?
No, I wouldn't say that's a fair question. For instance, at Golden Empire, Alice Burney, now Phoebe Hearst, schools that have attendance that exceeds their capacity, we have moved portables, right? So we use bond money to move the portables and then rehabilitate those portables, modernize, upgrade them. But this district hasn't been buying and building new portables and adding capacity for quite some time, these measures. Again, if you go to the Met and you look at the Met, I mean, that was a project, again, that not only did it use some Measure I dollars, but it also leveraged additional state dollars that completely transformed that and added capacity at that school. So I think that is a good example. But again, it's just one provision that's in the language that authorized those bond measures. It isn't the only thing that was utilized with those dollars. Again, very few dollars remain. But in the most recent iterations, we've done the Met, and we've moved portables and rehabilitated portables. So in other words, we actually transferred capacity, which is a good thing. We took capacity from certain sites and used that capacity to be extended at other school sites.
So are you saying that not one school that was up for closure was underutilized due to bond money purchasing? Let me tell you
Measure
the reason
Measure
why
I.
I'm asking is because, for example, if we look at James Marshall that was on the closure list, there's a big sign that says Measure I purchased or rebuilt the school. Well, if I remember right, James Marshall was a fairly small school, and then it was torn down to the ground and rebuilt back up with several portables. Correct?
So I can't say specifically, right? That project. I mean, although it is a more recent school, it was built several years ago.
10 years ago.
Long before I arrived. So I guess I don't understand the question on that. I don't understand the question.
The red flag of coming up of giving the history of Measure I, and it just kind of popped up in my mind of like, wow, we asked for bond money because to alleviate overcrowding. Now we're closing schools because we're not crowded enough. But then we asked for more money. So I'm just making sure that we're using the public's money to the best of our ability.
Again, Measure I, and I think what the Oversight Committee is doing is reporting on Measure I. There were some dollars, in fact, when we arrived, we actually put the further expenditures of those dollars on hold, and we reallocated them for very urgent, pressing projects. The current state of our schools are 50, 60, and 70 years old. And the specific measure Q is really focused on not only fire life safety issues at our facilities, but it's really focused on transforming our high schools which, other than Rosemont High School, in terms of our larger schools, haven't been touched in decades. Many of them. Some of them have had some recent additions. Kennedy High School has its auditorium. Burbank has a athletic facility, but schools like Hiram Johnson, McClatchy hasn't been touched in many, many years. And these are the places where we're expecting to prepare our children for 21st century careers, where we've made a huge investment in our linked learning, our career academies and pathways that are proving to be so successful, yet we don't have modern science labs. We don't have the facilities to really adequately prepare them for these kinds of careers and college opportunities. So the very different focus with this bond measure. I can't speak to Measure I. I wasn't here when that was developed and put on the ballot for the voters to authorize.
Okay, I appreciate you elaborating on that. And I guess I just kind of wanted to ask for clarification and also use this as a point of saying we need to be very careful on how we use our funds in the future to make sure that we're using them accordingly, and something like this doesn't happen in another 10 years of it coming back and biting us. So, thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Kennedy.
Yes, Board Member Rodriguez did not want an answer to her question, so I'm not answering it. But the while the bonds have been approved, Q&R were approved with projects listed, which is required by the law also allows for flexibility in there for a number of reasons to reprogram, as we did just a couple of years ago, or maybe even a year ago. We reprogrammed some funds as long as it's within the parameters of the law. That is allowable. So it's going to be fluid over the next 15, 20 years as far as what projects actually go. The other decisions that need to be made, and so that we're not just taking them from the ballot and saying, there's our laundry list of projects, go. We can only sell bonds at a certain rate. We're probably looking at a sale, if you were at the workshop the other day, of approximately $30 million for the first sale. So with a $400 million bond plus matching funds down the road, hopefully, we have to prioritize. And so I think that the advisory group, which I'm not a part of, but I assume that the advisory group, a part of that role is to help to prioritize, or it's the board's role to prioritize, but to help to put together recommendations based upon study and expertise. So those are some of the things that are happening, which make the bonds a little bit fluid. But all of this, of course, will come back, and all of these projects will not happen, will not be approved without approval of the board at the end.
Member Arroyo.
Thank you, President Cuneo. Had a couple of follow-up questions, and I would like to start by saying thank you to the members of the Bond Oversight Committee. I know for a long time since I came to the board, I know Adolfo and some of the members were asking me to recommend members to serve on the Bond Oversight Committee because many times you were not having enough members participate. So I know of the hard work that you guys have been putting in for a while, and you guys are community members, lending your eye and ear for us, right? And so just wanted to at least say thank you for the work that you've been doing for many years. I hope that the new bond renews the interest of more community members to be participating in this important process. So just at least a shout out and a recognition of the work that you've done. As such, I know that you are oversight, right? You kind of keep an eye and ear for us. And having said that, then it's staff that then helps us with the more technical questions, right? But I do have a few questions that, in you being your eyes and ears for us in the bond oversight, might be able to help us, and then see to what degree we need staff to kind of help us with some of the details. And one of them is a follow-up to Board Member Pritchett, and it would be great if we could have a list of the projects that were developed to alleviate overcrowding. I mean, I think that if the list was, I think at this point we should be able to know, right, what that is. So if staff could help us and email that to us, that would be really, really helpful. And then either from what you know as committee members or staff can help out identify if there were portables that were renovated or upgraded or worked on as part of the projects. That will be very helpful too. That's number two. And then as I learn more about the finances of the district, I'm at a point where I would be very curious to see the kind of like the itemized financial report, maybe through SACS, kind of like what the bond expenditures were. I think at this point, I know if there's a few dollars left, whatever that is, at least we know what has been expended, right? So it would be great to have that. So I don't know what kind of expediency we can have these reports put together. It shouldn't take that long, given the fact that it's information that we already have, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So I will be expecting an email with that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Roy. Seeing no other comment, I will. We have Vice President Kennedy.
I just want to really quickly to you guys here looking like, oh my God, what are we doing here? We understand a lot of those things that Member Arroyo asked for are to staff, and we know it's outside of your purview. So, we're not piling all that on you.
And therefore, that's why I was trying to clarify. I know that your role is to lend the oversight, and then staff steps in with
They were
with
nodding.
the details.
They were nodding very well, though.
Huh?
They were giving
They were
it-
nodding very.
Of course, we can do that.
Yes.
But yes.
I wanted you to know that I know that you know that I know that you know. That's how it kind of works.
Okay, well, yeah, I do appreciate all the hard work on the oversight committee, and I know it's often thankless task, but I appreciate you showing up and making sure that our dollars are wisely spent and spent consistent with what the voters approved. So I do appreciate all of that very much. I will move the item from conference to action. Second by Vice President Wu. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Member Rodriguez opposed. Abstentions? Item is now in action. I will second.
Second.
We will, there's a motion to approve the 2011-2012 Bond Oversight Committee Annual Report on Measure I by Vice President Wu, a second by Vice President Kennedy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Member Rodriguez opposed. Abstentions? The annual report has been approved. Thank you. Item 9.2, Civic Permit Policy Review and Update. It's an information item with a 10-minute presentation, 20-minute discussion. Teresa Cummings and Kent Jones.
President Cuneo, Superintendent Raymond, board members, I'm Teresa Cummings, Interim Chief Accountability Officer, and I'm here with Kent Jones. He's our District Facility Operations Specialist. As some of you know, we have been working with our stakeholders and our boards for the past year to find an equitable and fair civic permit process for both the district and the community members we serve. This evening, I will be reviewing and updating you on the civic permit process, and Kent and I will be here to address any questions or concerns you might have. Slide. Seem to be missing the clicker. Oh, here we go. Thanks. Okay. We began this process of updating the civic permit policy, administrative regulation, and the fee structure after the oversight of permits was moved over to the operations department. Staff began to notice concerns with the processes and the procedures, and it became apparent that the process was not equitable for all groups. Some groups were even utilizing our facilities without taking out a permit, which can leave the district liable for anything that occurs while the organization is on the site. In collaboration with the UC Davis, we went through a Lean Six Sigma Kaizen event, and this event was 5 intense days, really looking and taking a deep dive of our processes and our procedures and trying to eliminate as much waste as possible. We wanted to be able to create a streamlined and focused procedure, one that was an equitable process as well. After the Kaizen event, with the help of UC Davis, we were able to benchmark against area districts, and then we utilized a tool called the Joint Use Calculator. It was created in a collaboration with UC Berkeley as well as with the 21st Century School Fund. This is continued to be used in the San Francisco Unified School District as well. The Joint Use Cost Calculator takes into consideration the operating costs, our administrative costs, capital costs, as well as our opportunity costs. It allows us to identify elements of the school district facility-related costs, calculate full ownership costs, as well as determine user classifications and create fee structures. Initially, we did determine not to utilize the opportunity costs, which include the value of the land. and we looked at just the operating, admin, and capital costs. Here you see 2 of the 4 proposed classifications. An organization is charged a particular fee dependent upon the classification they fall under. You can find the full explanation of the new proposed classifications on page 2 of your executive summary. But here are some examples of Class A and B. Currently, our civic permit process has 3 classifications. And in reviewing the process, staff determined that in order to provide as many opportunities for our youth in our district, we needed a 4th classification, which is what you see in front of you, Classification B. Classification B focuses on activities for nonprofit organizations residing within the school district, such as youth sports, youth theater, homeowners associations, and local senior citizen groups. Here we have classification C and D, and classification is normally cost at the actual cost, and classification D is fair market value. C is also nonprofit organizations, and classification D is for-profit organizations. After creating the 4 classifications, we used the joint use cost calculator to determine our at-cost fees. This came to $25.24 per square foot per year. After initial discussions with our stakeholder and with the board, we realized that $25.24 was too high to use for the creation of a new fee structure. We then looked at only taking into consideration utilities and maintenance costs, which provided us $7.89 per square feet annually. And then we took even deeper reductions for all of the classifications, but in particular classification B and C. You can find a full proposed fee schedule on pages 3 through 7 of the executive summary. In this past year, we have had extensive stakeholder engagement, as you can see from this slide. As we spoke with our stakeholders, we received a wealth of input, but 3 major themes continue to arise. With the reduction of 50% of our custodial staff and 50% of our gardening staff, as well as 20% of our maintenance personnel, there were concerns that we would not be able to support our civic users in the manner that we had in the past. Groups are currently not required to have a custodian nor a porta potty if they are only using fields. This created a sanitation issue at some of our sites, and with the reduction in custodial staffing, it left our principals to clean up messes on Monday morning. There was also a concern that if we raised the fees too high, organizations would be outpriced and they would not be unable to continue to provide the needed services for our students that in our current fiscal state we cannot. Along with stakeholder input, we also contacted other districts and we met with our civic permit users to discuss civic permit best practices. And here are 4 that I'd like to highlight, which the district has or will be implementing. This chart is important to show that the district's goal of creating a fair and equitable process allows our partner organizations avenues to provide opportunities for our students that we cannot deliver given the current fiscal climate. One component, so what we have in front of us is we have the actual from 2011-12 with the current fees, and then we have our permits with the proposed fees if we would have done our proposed fees in 2011-12. The one component I really want to point out is the custodial fees. In years past, we have not been able to recuperate the amount of fees that it actually costs us in paying for our custodians to work overtime. So we did see a $40,000 loss. I'd also like to point out that the facility use fees in front of you is actually the ones collected. We currently have unpaid $63,866. Here you have a fee structure comparison for classes B through D with other area districts. And as you can see, we do compare with the proposed fee structure, and we do believe it is fair and equitable. I wanted to provide you some sample costs for some of our organizations. For example, we have our youth soccer. If our youth soccer with the proposed fees, a particular season is around 15, 16 weeks, their current cost is $5. The proposed cost would total $110 with the difference of an additional $105 for that soccer program. With nonprofit football and weekend games, 5 Saturday games, they would actually see a reduction of $2,876. With our adult nonprofit softball league, they would actually see a reduction of $158. They would have to cover the porta potty fees as well as the youth soccer. And then with our religious organization, which is a Class C, they would see a reduction in $611.80. We are asking the board to take action tonight. If you are able to take action, we can move forward and start communicating with our user groups, having our stakeholder meetings, emails, letters, phone calls. We would like to have our scheduling event. We'll be updating the website. And Kent and I are here to ask any questions.
Just to be clear, we're here on an information item and no action tonight.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So we're clear.
Shoot. Okay. Well, we will be back for a fourth time. We love talking about permits. Yes. But we are here to answer any questions.
We have a number of members wishing to speak. First, Vice President Kennedy. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Public comment? I always forget.
We have 3 public comments from Leo Bennett Cochon, Bill Head, and Kim Stevens.
Leo Bennett Cochon. Thought that was an excellent presentation, and I call your attention to page 1, where they summarize both the goals, which is equity for all user groups, and the extensive community stakeholders input meetings. So different than what happened with the school closures, where it wasn't input, and this was a year-long process, not the 5 weeks. I now move us to your facilities, which after the report, page 4 is page 1, and it clearly identifies that you want every school to be an integral hub of community life so that there's open space and access to resources. That's not happening. I don't understand why you're closing Joseph Bonheim, which actually makes money for you, as well as CB Wire. You could have discussions about little schools like Maple, but it's a landlocked community that has minimal services. We are a district of equity, and every child should have a home and a home school. So I think you could find justifications for why Maple should continue to receive some subsidy from the rest of us. That's why we have these different initiatives to balance us as a family. Each school is a family. Each school is the hub of community life. And when you pull that hub away, that community loses its heart. So I urge you to think about the process that was just explained to you and give us all one more year. You can do it right, and we deserve that. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bill Haddon. I'm president of Rosemont Soccer Club. I'm kind of speaking on behalf of some other organizations, Sacramento Girls Softball, as well as the Sacramento Soccer League as well. One thing I want to make sure that you understand that we've gone a long way, or we've come a long way, and I really appreciate all the work that's been done. We were way out there when we first started this process, and the fees were outrageous. So I appreciate all the work that's been done. But what I want to emphasize is these organizations like mine and Sacramento Girls Softball, they have put lots and lots of money into the fields that we use. These are our home fields that these kids go to these schools. These organizations have been around for 30, 40 years, and we don't want to have to compete for these same fields from new organizations that are popping up. Rosemont, we have an organization that popped up, and it's a competitive program that's currently using Capital Christian's fields. Well, they're coming over and they're throwing money. We don't have that kind of money. They're a profit. We're a nonprofit, and I want some distinction. Some of these organizations have nonprofit status, but they have paid employees or paid stipend coaches, completely different than what we do. Nobody in our organization is paid. Nobody's even stipend. I get a salad once a month, at a board meeting. So it's really, I spend 8 hours a day working on soccer stuff. So I put my love into this thing, and I want to provide the best program for the kids we can. So please try to keep the fees as low as we can so I can reach as many kids as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I first want to begin with saying thank you, Teresa Cummings, and as he so eloquently said, we've came a long way.
Can we have your name, please?
Sorry, my name is Kim Stevens. I'm with NorCal Youth Football. I've been doing youth sports for over 26 years. We impact over 2,000 children. We have over 200 volunteers. With the new proposal, we're in alignment with everything she just presented, and again, we came a long way, but as he stated, we need to make sure that there's a preference for people who are new users to requesting permits, so us who are veterans to this process don't get bumped out. In addition to that, we need to make sure there's a distinction over nonprofit and nonprofit with pay. Those who are receiving any type of stipend or funds for doing what they do. We in NorCal Youth Football receive no stipend. Our stipend is watching the growth of the children. So we don't receive any money kicked back to us as individuals. Everything is invested right back into the community. So a low-cost civic permit is needed so we can continue to do what we do. Our oldest program is the South Sac Vikings, which was started in 1965. Their home base is is Luther Burbank and Rosa Parks Middle School. Then we have the South Sac Raiders, who are 35 years old. So we have groups that have been here for such a long time, and we do not want them to disappear. Also, fair and equal access to the schools. Simply because our name does not carry a junior behind it, we should make sure that we get the same access. So if we need Saturday games, we should get Saturday games. It should not be based on because you are friends to the athletic director. It needs to be fair and equal access as we're paying the same fees. And then to use the scoreboard and all of that, all of those fees need to be re-looked at because those additional fees that we're already helping economically challenged families, and it's just too much to pay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Seeing no further public comment, Vice President Kennedy.
Yeah, I have a couple. First of all, Teresa, I want to thank you personally for really reaching out and soliciting my comments. I was very difficult to schedule, and I apologize for that. Okay. First of all, my one comment first is the elimination of the, what was it called? The opportunity costs? The
opportunity costs.
Yeah.
Gail, can you bring it back up for me, please?
That's all right. I just want
you have it in front of you?
I want to applaud that, the elimination of it. I mean, I've always felt like first of all, these are public amenities.
Mhm.
These are part of what we talk about being community resources and community centers. And my feeling has always been, as a school district, we shouldn't be in the business and making money, but we got to get out of the business of losing money.
Yes.
And I think that this is a more equitable way of doing that, and it isn't so onerous on our users and our community groups. I have one question on it's kind of a nitpicky thing, but curious as to, because one of the rubs all along has been custodial costs. That's been the most
Correct.
difficult thing to hurdle to overcome. And we have here on slide 12 of your presentation, it's our costs for our $26.64 to $46.15 an hour. Why the variation when?
So the $26.64 is for regular custodial pay, and then you have an overtime, which is in the middle, somewhere around $30, and then $46 is holiday pay. It's rare that an organization would pay holiday pay because usually the sites are completely shut down. But the $26.64, they usually pay either $26.64 or $30. It's around $32.
So for the overtime, how does that work? I mean, they have no say over whether or not the custodian is working overtime, right? So they just kind of inherit whatever situation.
They do. Per contract, we have to offer it up to our custodians first, and then we bring in people from the sub list if they don't want the extra hours.
Well, and I don't expect you to do this off the top of your head with an exact number, but roughly, how often is it that we're going out to a sub list?
Well, currently in this year, we go out to sub lists a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yes, because the folks that are working at the site, we have such a huge reduction in our custodial staffing this year.
Sure.
That the last thing they want to do is work overtime.
Okay.
And so we have a lot of the subs are our own folks that were here last year, so they know our sites really well.
Oh, so we're actually giving an opportunity to unfortunately, to some of our laid-offs.
Correct, yes. And then they would be charged the $26.64.
It just seems, and overtime, pretty much any time that any of our custodians say, yes, I want to do it, it's overtime.
It is, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We do provide them, the fee the highest fee with the overtime, and then we invoice afterwards. And so then we sometimes reduce it.
Does that mean you give them the worst case scenario?
We do. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. You're good at that.
That's my name.
Board Member Pritchett.
Thank you, President Cunyo. I just wanted to commend you both and Jim Dotson, that's not here tonight, on your work on this. Definitely have come a long way, as they have said. I actually sat in the audience last year when this subject was brought up as a community member, and when I first heard it, my jaw dropped because I have been the one to pull permits for a long time for PTA or Rosemont Junior Wolverines going and finding. So when I first heard the prices, I was like, wow. But you guys have done an excellent job with communicating to the public, and thank you for working with me one-on-one so I can go back to my community and work with them, and also inviting me to your meetings. And the work that you've done in those meetings is extraordinary.
Thank you.
I did have a couple questions.
Of course.
First off, I did want to thank Vice President Kennedy on your comments as well. The 4 days. Remember we talked about 4 days?
We did.
Is that gone?
It's gone.
Okay. New users. There's been quite, as you hear, the word about new users. I know that we had talked about in the past as if somebody wanted to pull out a permit and there was already a permit there. First, we didn't want to have those people holding those permits. So are we now saying you'll contact those leagues and say, these people are trying to pull a permit for your days, and if it's just 1 day, maybe they can work with those people?
Correct. So instead of going with this sort of 4-day max, we met with our stakeholders and we received feedback and input. We determined that a better way to go about it, because we do, for those of you who aren't as up on the permits process, we do have organizations that will block out 7 days a week.
because they're not sure about their schedule. And then sometimes they might not actually utilize them. So when another organization comes in, a new user comes in and wants to have it, we'll be able to contact the organization that holds the permit and say, hey, are you really using it on Sunday, or can this person use it? Because with the $5 or now proposed $10 permit fee, we had folks that would just block off months and months, so that for various reasons.
Okay. And then in regards to what our public speakers were talking about for the for-profit organizations,
correct.
I know under the Class D, you have adult for-profit groups, but what about the youth for-profit groups?
So Class D is for-profit.
For-profit.
Correct.
But what if
so
they
if
have
you're not a 501c3, if you're not a nonprofit organization, you would fall in Class D.
What if they have a 501c3, but they have paid employees, like you were saying?
Here, you got to speak to me.
Excuse me. I would think in some instances, especially with soccer, when you have a group that has the paid coaches, a lot of times they can't meet the residency requirement because they draw from a large area. They're not a local youth recreational soccer league. So I think that in itself would probably eliminate some of those groups from even being able to apply unless they were applying at the higher D rate.
C.
Or
C.
C or D.
The nonprofit that draw from around the whole Sacramento County and not just within our district limits would be a Class C.
Okay, so the non-for-profit that have paid employees, though, are they coming in as Class B along with our...
No, they would... Well, they could if they have a residency requirement where they fall within the Sac City limits.
But if they don't have the residency requirement...
They would be Class C.
Class C,
yeah.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Bill? All right. And in regards to the unpaid fees, the $63,000 that you're talking about...
Correct.
I would think that most of that is going to be going after. We're going to be going after these groups and saying, because I know for me, like how I said, I still pull permits because I'm a PTA leader, and I know that I owe a permit fee, but I'm waiting to hear back from the permits office of telling me exactly how much janitorial use that we actually used for that night. So I'm sure that there's many other groups within that amount that they're waiting for the same thing, and I know our permits office has kind of been on a hold.
Correct.
Because we're waiting for the board to come to a conclusion on this,
correct? Yeah.
So once that happens, then at that point, we'll be doing a whole analysis of our entire system and then going back and billing these folks for this.
We do go back and bill. I mean, we are in somewhat of a influx, especially for those that are receiving such a large decrease. We don't want to have to charge them the higher amount knowing that, because we wanted to gather more stakeholder input, it puts them at a disadvantage because now they can't utilize the new fee structure. So we are looking at how to better streamline and analyze and really take a look at how do we get the invoices out quicker.
I knew the answer. I just wanted the public to hear because I'm sure when they heard that number, they're thinking, geez, people just aren't paying their permits and we're not doing anything about it. So I wanted to
we are.
clarify to the public that this is what's happening.
We do ask, you can't pull a new permit if you have an unpaid balance. One of the concerns that we really have mainly around our youth organizations, especially our nonprofit youth organizations, is that oftentimes their boards turn over. And so when their board turns over, sometimes the president, doesn't pay as they leave. And so that's that's a struggle for us because you don't want to hurt the kids. You still want them to be able to participate and play just because an adult made a wrong decision. And we work with those organizations.
Okay, thank you. And once again, I really commend you on your work.
Thanks.
I know this has been a very
I have a great staff.
grueling process, so you've done a great job on coming up with a conclusion.
Thanks.
Vice President Wu.
Thank you, President Cuneo. Congratulations, Teresa. A program that makes sense, finally. That was my...
Third time's a charm.
Yeah. And it wasn't that I had problems before, it's just I just didn't understand the categorization, but this one is rational. And so I congratulate you. I think that we might want to do a couple things. Make sure that on the permit application that the fee being charged, or there's given notice that the fee being charged does not include porta potty or bathroom fees.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of new. And so they may, an applicant may presume that it comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to make it clear that that is an extra, number one. And I think that you might want to put this on your agenda for, because our costs continue to rise, you might want to put this on your agenda to revisit this on an every other year or some basis like that, so we can adjust the fees as costs go up or costs go down, and we can go in both directions. So long as Vice President Kennedy mentioned, my concern is that we don't lose money.
Yeah.
We have very little of it to lose. So thank you, Teresa.
Thanks a lot.
Member Rodriguez.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions about like your AR that you attached here.
Yeah, the administrative regulation.
Yes. I don't know what's changed, what's not changed. So the next time when you submit it into a board packet,
Oh, I apologize for that.
The red line.
Yes, correct.
Thank
yes.
you. And I'm really glad because that we're not approving it tonight. I don't know what's changed. I could take a guess.
That should have been added. So sorry.
Yes, I could take a guess. The other thing that I have a question about is that when this new fee schedule comes into play, how much time are we going to give the organizations out there to prepare for either an increase or a decrease? Most of concern is the increase, though.
So on the slide, I stated that permits who were already submitted and approved or pending permits would be calculated at the lowest rate. So we would actually look at the proposed and the old structure and determine what is the least expensive for the organization. And then we would like to do a full implementation July 1st of any new permits after July 1st. And that's only new permits. They would go to the new fee structure. So anything before that, we would be a permit by permit basis to determine what is the lowest fee structure for them.
I've gotten several phone calls about this from concerned groups.
Yes.
And they're saying that, they want time. They want like a kind of a year phase-in process so that they can have time. Because as we know, sports activities don't happen all at once.
Yeah.
They're phased in throughout the year. So they need some time to kind of ramp up for this kind.
So we can work on with individual organizations. If there is a concern, they can definitely contact me and I can sit with them. 99% of the organizations with this new fee structure, there will be a reduction in fees for them. Yeah, so it'll actually be a positive thing for them. The custodial fees will be a little bit more, but the permit use fees will be a reduction.
And I believe that that's what they're concerned about, because they have to charge their parents, for their participation fees. And so they're going to want to have a good estimate of how much it would cost. Yeah. And I have, for the record, I have been telling them to call the district.
Right.
But I know that they want to put it on record with me as well, that they have these concerns. The other thing is that when organizations use our fields, I will take a school that's kind of directly in the middle of a neighborhood. Let's say Hollywood Park and Leonardo da Vinci. It's got a big field because it's kind of shared. And, there's hardly any parking there for these types of activities that happen. People have to park along the streets. Are we doing anything about that in terms of who's renting our facilities? Are we advising them in terms of protocols for not parking in driveways, not disturbing the neighbors or anything like that? I didn't read any of that in here.
So, Kent might be able to speak more to it. And we do have a sort of a code of ethics that we provide that ask our permit holders to be respectful. And then we have security receives a
list of all the permitted facilities over the weekend from Friday to Sunday. And so they actually drive around and check on the permit users to make sure that everything is under control. And then they, if there's any issues, they call the Sacramento Police Department or myself or Tracy Lopez, who you'll be hearing from in a few. And then we put them on a progressive discipline. So it's a verbal warning, and then it is a written letter, and then there is time away from us, unless it warrants a straight to time away from us.
And the security that we have going out to all of the permit sites, are the groups paying for those as well?
Well, we have our own security on the weekends.
Yeah, no, we have our
Correct.
SCS.
Yes.
But are they, because now it's like an extra trip that they have to make that they may have not
Well, they
made.
go out to the sites anyway. They travel around and check on the sites anyway, because you want as many, you want eyes on the sites over the weekend. It actually helps us when the permit holders are there because it keeps more eyes on the site. And
Any more time at these sites that have the
only if there's a concern, but if there's a concern, they will stay and they will take a look at it, and then they will call for support from Sacramento PD.
And is this one person that's going around, or for the security?
It's one. We have one security officer at a time. It's multiple people over the weekend, but to take care of the 24-hour period. But it's one person. We only have one security officer on at a time on the weekends.
I'm along with Vice President Kennedy. I think we should be looking at ways to not give our money away. I know it's kind of like a new twist in this, but I think in the next version of permit fees, I think if they're spending a little bit of extra time at these sites, perhaps we should be charging them a little for that security.
So some organizations, when they have large events, have to have a security on their own. And we check on our sites anyway, and so we're there to make sure that the permit is a valid permit. We want our kids to have these experiences, we want our kids engaged, and we want to be able to provide a fee structure that allows for that to continue. So I do understand your concern about we don't want to lose funding. I mean, we do. Especially with our current staffing, but we don't have the fiscal budget to provide all of these experiences, to have sports in elementary school. So some of our communities rely on these organizations to be able to provide opportunities for their children, and also it keeps the eyes on the site. We don't have the theft and the vandalism of our sites when we have more permits on the site.
No, I understand that part. I mean, totally holistically understand it, but at the same time, our staff doesn't come free either. And so that's the only reason why I bring that up is that, we're paying for custodians, and security is a part of that.
Well, part of the custodian's role is also, as a custodian, is to watch over what's going on at the school and to monitor the permits. So when you do have the large events at your stadiums, you usually do have a custodial staff on. It's just basically at your recreational type on unimproved fields where you don't have the custodial staff there during the permits.
I understand that, but it's not the custodian's job to be a security either.
It is in a certain respect. It is
on the job description. So now what really concerned me earlier, it was when you said we had the almost $64,000 in unpaid invoices.
Correct.
What's the aging of that, of that account? I mean, are we at 90 days plus or 120 days?
That was
plus?
for the 2011-12 fiscal year.
We're really behind.
We are.
And so we are waiting for the board to make a decision on this. Why are we not charging them what they were being charged for 11-12? And then
no, we are. We send out invoices, and that's what I tried to reiterate to Member Pritchett. We send out invoices. We do right now when people are turning in invoices, we're sort of in an influx, and so a lot of our organizations that utilize us over and over, they put in a permit for like a 6-month period. Or so we have an organization that, like a religious organization, that will put in a permit for a whole year. And so we're not invoicing those organizations because we want to give them the lowest price. because we want to continue to engage them. For the 11-12 fiscal year, I mean, we will continue to not allow those organizations to receive a new permit, but some of those fees were from one-time users that we probably won't recover, and then there are also from fees from our youth organizations where the boards have turned over and the president has left without paying the bill. And we don't want to hurt the children.
It's bad debt that's getting paid, that's getting written off our books somehow,
Correct.
some way. So it's in essence goodwill to our nonprofit organizations or any other organization that has come along. So then why are we not then just writing it off as a gift of public funds to them, and then they have to report it on their financials if they're nonprofit organizations?
Well, Ken's not here, but I can definitely ask him how we deal with that
quite
situation.
frankly, we're in 11-12 fiscal year, so this is a year overdue. And for us to wait on that, that's not very fiscally prudent for us to do so.
Well, I'm sure the business office has dealt with that.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to I'll be very brief, broadly supportive. Thank you for all the hard work. I do take the comments about the nonprofit institutes or nonprofit entities that, pay their coaches and things like that. And I don't know if you can come to some perfect, we've been distinguishing things on this issue for a year and a half now. So I'm broadly supportive, but I would, in response, and I do see the issue, I get it, is that I think it's just going to have to be an ongoing conversation about equity, about who's using the fields, and if certain organizations are becoming privileged over time for whatever reasons, then we're going to have to come back and modify it at the appropriate hour. But I'm broadly supportive of what you've done, and I appreciate all the hard work.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'd like to thank my staff too. They worked really hard on this. They're great.
Thank you. Item 9.3, Safe Schools and Security Update. It's an information item with a 10-minute presentation and a 20-minute discussion. Teresa Cummings, Tracy Lopez, and Lieutenant Lisa Hines.
I'll stay up here and not ask you to take action. It's just information.